Three, two, one. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 271, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
How have you been doing this week? Oh, man.
This week, so far, so good.
Good. That's good. All right, we
Cannot complain.
had a nice little blip of internet upload speeds not going well, but that's all back to normal now, so we should be all good. No problems.
That was just Big
there.
Brother connecting into, watching us.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's everybody going, oh, hey, yeah, we need to watch this. No. Yep. So, anything big, fun, exciting happening this last week?
Oh, man. You're asking me to remember stuff. Jeez.
I
didn't know there was
right?
going to be a quiz. I would have
Well,
studied.
I mean, it's been like it's been like 2 weeks since we recorded, so there's been a lot of stuff, you know?
Unfortunately, I lead a pretty boring life.
Yeah, I mean, my life's just busy, bouncing around everywhere. So it's and it's been a little busier. My wife's been traveling the last couple weeks, and she's actually off right now in Columbia, Missouri. So she's in Columbia, Missouri, meeting with some people, and then she goes to Jeff City tomorrow, and then Springfield on Thursday, and then hopefully, if her meetings get done early enough on Thursday, she'll be coming back Thursday. Be back here Thursday evening. Otherwise, she'll be back Friday morning. So, or mid-morning. But yeah, so it just makes it a little bit, you never realize how difficult it is doing all the things that gets done around the house when, when there's not two of you doing it. So,
yeah.
It's getting the kids places that they need to be, and splitting time and doing, getting one place and one the other. Sometimes there's sacrifices that have to be made. So, but yeah, other than that, just been busy with lots of stuff. There was this new trailer that dropped yesterday. We're recording this on February. What the hell? It's not February.
Holy cow.
Wow, October 22nd. So last night during Monday Night Football, the final trailer for Rise of Skywalker was released. I have not seen it because I didn't watch Monday Night Football last night because it was the Patriots and the Jets, and it was a blowout in the first 2 minutes of the game, and I said, screw this. So I turned on hockey. One of the joys of having Hulu Live. I got to watch hockey. So.
Yeah, and you didn't have to watch the Patriots.
Yeah, because that's pathetic. And I'm sorry, the Patriots like bragging that they're 8-0 now, and they've played the Jets twice, the Dolphins, the Steelers on their third string quarterback. Like, give me a break, guys. Play somebody that's actually got a winning record, and then come talk to me about your perfect record and how great your defense is. I mean, Sam Darnold forgot he was throwing to people in green and was only throwing to people in white.
Well, maybe he's like Testaverde was back in the day and is colorblind and nobody realized it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of that last night. It's like, ugh, this game's awful. So, but have been still enjoying my Hulu Live and getting to watch a lot more. Actually, it's easier to watch sports now than it was before. So,
yeah, it is a ton easier.
Yeah,
I thought I would miss flipping through the channels, but I don't.
Yeah, me neither. It's kind of incredible that just being able to like know exactly what it is that you want to watch. I find I watch less TV that way too, because if there's not something specific, if I don't know exactly what I want to watch, I don't usually turn it on. I go do something else instead. So,
Yeah, so far the only downside is if you record a TV show,
mm-hmm.
like i.e. a football game, which I will tend to do, you cannot fast forward through the commercials.
Yes, that does suck. Last Thursday night when the Chiefs game was on, we were coming back from soccer practice when it had started. And so my wife had kind of hit like the pause button on it so that we could watch it from the beginning. And I was hoping I could fast forward through the commercials and catch up to live. Yeah, that didn't work. So, yeah, Hulu Live does not let you fast forward through commercials.
No, and I was disappointed because I pay for the Hulu no commercials version, but I guess that's only for
that only works for
the streaming services, not the live TV.
Yep, exactly. Live TV still has to make their money, but I do like that it gives you the little ticker though.
Yeah, to tell you how much time's left in the commercials.
Yeah, except I noticed during the hockey games it didn't do that. So I don't know if that was because of the way the stream was brought in, or what. I wonder if I could fast forward through those commercials, because like the commercials that play during during football games, if it's a commercial where the game is still going on, and they have the commercial, so it does like the picture-in-picture commercial, you can fast forward through those.
Oh, okay.
So it's just the advertisers that I think are paying Hulu to put their commercial into the game, and not the actual like broadcast. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. The $50 a month I'm saving, I'm willing to put up with some commercials.
Right? Exactly. So, you know what? Let's just get right to it here. We're gonna watch
we have diddly-dallied enough.
Yeah, we've put it off long enough. Rise of Skywalker final trailer. We're gonna watch it right here, right now. So if you haven't seen it, and you're listening to us on a podcast, well, you can continue listening to us on the podcast. You will hear the trailer, but you won't be able to see it because we can't do that to a podcast. But if you head over to our YouTube channel, you can check this out on YouTube, this episode, and you'll get to watch that trailer right with us. Either way, you're going to get my first reactions. You've seen this trailer already, correct?
Seen it twice now.
So you've seen it twice. This will be time number 3. This will be time number 1 for me. So, and honestly, I haven't heard anything about it even, which is really kind of shocking. So, that's how busy I've been. I haven't actually looked for it. So, I don't know. I've put it off long enough. Let's get this going. Trailer time.
It's an instinct. A feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me.
That's brilliant.
No one does.
But I do. Long have I waited. And now you're coming together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
confronting fear. It's the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Okay, so a couple of observations. One, horses on a spaceship. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
And two, were Kylo and Ren working in unison to destroy that statue, or was that just collateral damage of their fight?
You know, that was one of the things I was looking at just in that first pass, looking at it like, I think I need to go watch that again. Is that a foreshadowing of maybe them being on the same side? You know, it's really interesting. I also like that scene where where it looked like they were in the Millennium Falcon, and you had Chewbacca and Ren, and then I forget the other two guys that were behind them, Poe, right?
Poe, Dameron, and Finn.
Yeah, and Finn behind them, kind of reminiscent of you know, or an homage to some of the originals movies, I think.
Yep.
So I thought that was really cool. Curious about so it's like the Emperor's ship looked like it was coming out of the ground, or what's that? A Star Destroyer, I think is what they're called. The really big ones. Well, it looked like it was coming out of the ground, so I'm kind of curious about that. Is that one like coming back to life type thing that they thought was destroyed, or was it buried, like hidden? I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that. Yeah, I'm sure there's way more stuff to pick apart on that, but man, just for the first look of that thing, that looks really good.
It does, doesn't it?
That probably has me more excited than the other Star Wars trailers. Like, particularly the last Star Wars trailer. What was the name of that one? I forgot. Crap. I don't know. The one right before this one. You know, it didn't. This one had a lot more. It just
The
felt
Last
more.
Jedi or whatever.
Yeah.
You talking about that?
Yes. This one had more. I don't know. I don't know what it is. This thing got me more excited. This was a really good trailer. This was really well done. Way to amp it up for me. And I have to show my kids and decide if we're gonna go see this in the theater or not, because it looks kind of fun. Kind of fun. That's sarcasm. It's really fun. Looks awesome. And yeah. I'm ready to see it. Can I go see it now?
It's one of the most visually stunning Star Wars previews I've ever seen. I mean, you know, episodes 1, 2, and 3 really tried to lay on the CGI pretty thick and everything, and there were some pretty cool shots, but there are some shots in this trailer. It's like, yeah, I'm floored. I'm completely floored by that. So
yeah, and I really like. One of the things that frustrates me about trailers here recently is, and I'm sure this one has some of it too, but we won't know until we see the movie, is the clips from clips in the trailer that actually aren't in the movie. So I'm hoping all of these are in there, because it really frustrates me when they give you foreshadowing in the in the trailer and don't, end up cutting that scene out. If it's important enough to put into the trailer, or if it's good enough to put in the trailer, it should be good enough for the movie. But this one felt like those first few scenes, or the first few clips in there where Ren's running and looks like she's going to jump over a chasm and then lands in a different scene. Kind of curious to what that is, if that's a mind escape type thing, or if this is actually her training. Kind of curious to see where that goes. And, want to know more about what's going on with Finn and Poe. Because you see them in here, but you don't really see them doing a whole lot. So,
yeah, this is true.
Kind of curious where they come from and how that all fits.
Yeah, Finn's kind of disappeared in the last movie, so
yeah,
hopefully they do something with him. I did notice there's the one scene where they have Rose. They show Rose, but if you look behind her, two characters. One is, I think his name is Dominic Monaghan from Lord of the Rings and from Lost.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Carrie Fisher's daughter, who was in these movies, in the other movies, so it's not a surprise she's there. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with those two.
Yeah.
Especially Dominic Monaghan, because I don't think his character has even been introduced. I think this is the first time we've seen it in this trailer. So,
yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm all in. I really want to see it. It's on my list. It's gonna go on my list. I know this. 2 months. We just got 2 months to wait. That's all we got.
That's it.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than wow, that was really good. And when we're done recording, I'll probably go watch it a couple more times because, yeah. Why haven't I watched that till now? Saving it for the show, guys. Saving it for the show. Yeah, I'm really excited to have my kids watch it too because I'm curious what they think. They're not, they don't have the history of Star Wars like the rest of us, and I'm really curious if these movies are that transition. Are these the movies that will help get the next generation of Star Wars fans into it, that gets them to go back and watch the original stuff, or be able to pull them all together. I think that's always important with movies, with any stories really, is being able to, if the movie's not timeless enough, or the story isn't timeless enough to where it stands up on its own over a long period of time, you got to be able to get the next generation into it to keep something going. So
yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like the wonder has been there for these movies like they were the original trilogy. So it's hard to say what these kids these days, what they're actually going to think about it. And
some of that wonder might not be there because you've seen, you were there. We've been around long enough that wonder we're more jaded now. We're adults, and we weren't adults when those first movies were coming out.
Yeah, this is true.
So that's what makes me wonder is like, and maybe my kids are actually on the younger side of it. I wonder if it's more in that 12 to 16 range, that where it's really influential, and things mean more to you at that point because you haven't been around long enough to see it, done other ways.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll find out when your kids get older, but yeah. Right now I'm pretty pumped about it.
Do you have your ticket bought? I guess that's the first question that I should ask.
Yes. Actually do.
How many times are you seeing it
We
in the
watched
first weekend?
we watched the trailer when I got home from work, and at the end of the trailer it says tickets on sale now. And my wife's like, "We can buy tickets now," and she turned on her computer and bought us tickets.
There you go. Just for one showing? You didn't
Yeah,
buy one for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
we're just got Friday morning at 11:45.
There you go. There you go. That sounds like a good play. Sounds like a good play. That's right around Christmas break too, so might have to take a day off of work, go see it.
There you go. Now
I
you're
like that
talking.
idea. I like that idea. All right. Well, we got that in there. So we talked about a really good movie. Now let's talk about a mediocre movie.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, guys. So I finally watched The Dark Phoenix. What is it? What was the title for this actually thing? I think it was just Dark Phoenix. Is what the oh no, X-Men : Dark Phoenix. That's what it was.
X-Men's colon, what?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I feel like this movie should belong. If you haven't picked up, not a huge fan of this movie. How do I put this?
I don't know. That's your story.
I thought this movie left a lot of things on the table, and I feel like the writing in this movie took too many shortcuts. All right, let's bring this back a little bit. So after this movie came out and it didn't do as well as they wanted it to, it had been pushed back a couple of times. And then it ended up coming out, what was it, 2 weeks after Avengers Endgame?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was right around Avengers Endgame. Maybe a month after, but it didn't get good reviews from the critics. It didn't get a ton of praise from even the fans, which, is kind of sad. But it kind of goes to show for it. If you get critical response, if the critics think of it as, only average, but the fans really like it, that still means something. Well, Simon Kinberg actually came out and talked about why it didn't succeed, but he didn't really talk about it. He really just took the blame himself. He's like, it's his fault for not telling the story that should have been told, or that the fans wanted, I guess. He thinks it's still a good movie, which I would tell him, if you think this is a good movie and you think the writing, then you need to go back and understand what this story was really about, because this movie failed in I think several areas, but most particularly in the main character's motivation.
Interesting.
So I guess I'll start with this. Kip, are you familiar with the original Dark Phoenix saga in the comic books?
I am not.
So, first of all, this is a pretty big undertaking to put this into a movie. If you're going to try to take what was in the comic books, because this was very well thought of. The comic book story was written by Chris Claremont, art by John Byrne, and this is probably this was during Chris Claremont's most influential time the X-Men. Yes, the X-Men were created by other people, but Chris Claremont really took the X-Men to a whole nother level, and this was kind of that culmination of it. This ran in the 80s, well, actually in 1980 was when the comic book came out. A series of 9 issues connected together. The story was of Jean Grey gaining not additional powers, but basically supercharged, and then being manipulated into doing things that weren't good. And how the X-Men saved Jean Grey, or how the universe came together to save Jean Grey and defeat this entity that had
changed her.
Yeah. This force, this Phoenix Force, as they called it in the comic books. The comic books had a part in there that was so controversial at the time that it actually got some people fired. And because they had Jean Grey kill an entire universe, an entire, like, basically destroys a solar system, killing billions of people, and they actually say in the comic books, killing, or with what's the exact quote? I'm trying to find it here real quick. But it's, yeah, I can't find the quote right here off the top of my head, but it says that billions of lives lost, and it's that was kind of the first time that genocide had been really talked about in comics. And so that was the emotional side of this. Was this Jean Grey acting on her own with just power that was beyond control, or was this the Phoenix Force, the Phoenix inside her, battling or manipulating Jean Grey into doing this? Was this the Phoenix doing it? Was it Jean Grey? And Chris Claremont actually came out, and this is where they actually went and kind of tried to change some things in this to make it a little bit better, or actually kind of change the way the comic ended from what Claremont had originally written. And Claremont came out and talked about that he didn't know which way to go. So in the comic book, it's very powerful, very meaningful. In the film, they left all of that out. And
It did, because it didn't feel like she was being manipulated internally at all. It was all external by her so-called friends and whatnot. And
yeah. And that's where I really felt like this kind of dropped the ball. There was no, like, the Phoenix in this movie wasn't it wasn't anything. They didn't. It was just an amplification of her powers. It unlocked her true potential, which, in that sense, if you are inherently good, like we would say the X-Men are, if you are inherently good, then if you unlock your true potential, your true powers, then you would then in turn still be good, right?
You would think so.
But this unlocked her abilities, and she became evil. I say that with a question mark because I don't know. The movie doesn't explain. They expect you to just be able to flip a switch and get how she feels without ever really truly giving you that feeling. Like, it does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, yeah, because watching the movie, my whole thought process was, I don't know what she's complaining about.
Yeah.
She got these powers. Of course, people want her to use these powers. They want to benefit from these powers. And she was already on the side of good, so anything they tell her should have been like, well, I may not agree with this, but these people have done good since I've known them,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden she's listening to other forces and she's doing all this other stuff, and it's like, are you just that susceptible to peer pressure? Were you evil to begin with? Are you just a spoiled brat?
Yep.
Don't know which one it was.
Well, and so then I would go, so then if we're diving into exactly what this is, so the premise of the movie is that Jean Grey, this takes place right after the Age of Apocalypse movie. So the X-Men are superheroes, everybody likes them. Magneto is running Genosha, which is a little interesting, but okay, we'll go with it. Um, but the X-Men go to space and to save a space shuttle disaster that's getting hit with a solar flare. And Jean Grey saves the people, well, with the help of Nightcrawler. And Jean Grey gets exposed to the solar flare, which gives her these abilities, enhances her abilities, is the Phoenix Force, basically. Which is very similar to what the comic books. That's the same way she got the powers in the comic books was, I don't remember if it was a space shuttle, but she got them from what everyone thought was just a solar flare. And so that I was able to go with. But then you find out that Xavier placed mental walls within Jean Grey to hide her past from her, which is the exact opposite of what Xavier does for every other mutant there.
Yeah.
He didn't hide the fact that Scott Summers' family died and he was the only survivor. He didn't hide the fact that that nobody wanted Rogue. He didn't hide the fact that Wolverine was a test subject that was an experiment that went wrong, or I guess didn't go wrong, but he, killed all these people. Like he helps break down those barriers, not put up those barriers. So the fact that he put up those barriers to protect her instead of working with her to understand those emotions and control them like he did for every other X-Men, and what he does at the school was a little odd. And it also created this dynamic that now when Jean Grey, these barriers come down and Jean Grey realizes that she killed her family, but she didn't actually, she thought she killed her family, but she didn't. Her dad's still alive and he didn't want her. Now she's having to deal with all these things. So we have Jean Grey as the hero and Xavier as the bad guy.
Pretty much. That's that whole trope of I tried to protect you from the world and ended up messing you up instead. And that's pretty much what he did.
But yet at the but and which I'm okay with. We could have gone with that. However, we never completed that. That was never allowed to develop. That story wasn't allowed. That dynamic between the two of them was not allowed to continue because they introduced this race called the Dabari and this character named Vuk that wants the Phoenix Force, but we don't know why. They're a shape-shifting alien race. But why are they here? Why do they want the Phoenix Force? And why are they now the bad guys? Because they want the Phoenix Force? They want to take the Force from Jean Grey to make her back, to basically put her back to what she was. But now all the other people want to stop them. And they want Jean Grey to have this power, even though she is out of control. Like, the dynamic there doesn't work. Like, you have too many stories going on and none of them finish. And we don't know why any of them are there. I mean, who is Jean Grey supposed to be fighting against? Is she fighting against the Dabari or is she fighting against Xavier?
No.
Right?
I don't know.
and that right there is why I think this movie didn't hit with audiences. I know I grew up reading Chris Claremont's X-Men. I have read it so many times that I like my comic books from growing up, like the staples in them are worn out. I have read them so many times. I can't pull them out of the bags that they're in anymore because the pages will just fall out. Like, I know this story. I grew up with this story. So I know where it could have gone with good writing. And I feel like this movie failed because they forgot what they were writing. They didn't rely enough on the source material.
Well, I think they wanted her to have an internal struggle, and they didn't care what caused it. And that was what the whole thing was about. That was oversimplification, but that's basically how the movie played out.
But that could have worked if you didn't include the Dabari.
Yeah.
Because they had no point in being there if this was an internal struggle. The Dabari was only there because... Now here we go. Here's the fun part. If it's an internal struggle, guess what doesn't ever have to show up in the movie? No superpowers. No mutant abilities. No massive fights. Because it's an internal struggle. It's Jean Grey. It's a coming-of-age movie for Jean Grey. Coming to deal with the fact that her parents didn't want her. Her dad didn't want her. Which she should have understood from the beginning when he's yelling at her in the car, and that's what makes her, like, cause the car to go off course and run into the semi, and I think that's what it was. But crash and kill everybody. Like, she did it. It wasn't an accident. Well, it was an accident. Okay, it was an accident. She didn't mean to kill everybody, but she did it. It was her powers. It was her not being able to control it. A good, like, the Xavier that worked with everybody else would have worked with her to understand you were not, like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just didn't have control. Let's teach you control. That's what the Charles Xavier from all the other movies was, including X-Men First Class, including Age of Apocalypse. So now all of a sudden you've gone and changed your Xavier that you've used all these times, that this is supposed to be building on. I'm not even going back to, we don't even have to go back to the Patrick Stewart Xavier, which I think was a way better Xavier than James McAvoy. But, and nothing against James McAvoy, I think he's a very good actor. But I think Patrick Stewart's better.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
that's an easy one. But you did miss what's the best part of this entire movie, though.
Yeah.
And that is Jennifer Lawrence's character died and she was not in the rest of the movie.
That is true. That is true.
I don't understand everybody's obsession with Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's a terrible actress, and her portrayal of, or shoot, I already forgot the character's name,
Mystique.
Was so cardboard it annoyed me. Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh, if we want to go with bad acting, we can go with that. Yeah, I believe that Jennifer Lawrence was bad. I would also say that and now I'm going to get it wrong because I don't have the list pulled up here in front of me, but the guy who played Nightcrawler, I feel really bad.
No, I'm sorry.
Cody Smith McPhee.
Yeah. That guy.
Like, he could be a really good actor. If he can't speak German, he probably shouldn't be Nightcrawler. Because Nightcrawler, it says it in the description, a German mutant who can teleport. Like, that's the description of the character. The accent that he had was awful. I mean, to the point where I actually, like, cringed when he talked. The other one was Storm. Everyone's favorite character. Favorite, because that was
Halle Berry.
It was not Halle. I thought it was. I really thought it was. It was not. Her name is Alexandra Shipp.
Yeah, I know, but they really wanted her to. Yeah.
They, again, the description of Storm, an African mutant who controls the weather. You gotta have, like, that's a pretty distinct accent. And her accent did not fit. I felt like it broke too many times, much like Nightcrawler's accents. Like, there were times where, oh, like, yeah, that kind of sounds German, and then that doesn't, then the next line is like, that sounds like not anything like German. That was really hard. And, but, you know, I felt those were bad. I thought those were bad. I thought that, so you have Cyclops, who's supposed to be, this is a quote from Simon Kinberg, the writer director of this movie, a huge part of the emotional core of the movie. Who
yeah, I didn't see that.
Had nothing emotional in the movie at all. This movie just missed on so many parts. Like, I feel bad because I think some of, like, I mean, even Michael Fassbender was only left with a little cameo, and he was way better than anyone else there, and he didn't even really get to do anything. There was just, they just missed the boat on this movie so bad. There was so much opportunity, so much promise for this movie, and there's a reason why I didn't go see it in the theater, and there was a reason why it took me this long to watch it. And this is really why. This movie was not like, honestly, I don't even I didn't like it so much that I wouldn't even recommend somebody watching this. If you want to see what the Dark Phoenix saga really could be, your best option, go watch the 90s animated X-Men cartoon. Go watch that because they did it better. And
Well,
sure,
honestly, other than X-Men First Class, I never really thought any of the X-Men movies were that great.
yeah,
This just happens to be maybe one of the worst ones ever.
this one really, it really didn't, it just didn't have a direction. It didn't have it had lots of story parts, but no story through the whole thing. Like, if you can't get done with the movie and go, and it's a superhero movie. Now, this is a superhero movie. They said it's a superhero movie. But you get done with it and you don't know who the hero is, you don't know who the bad guy is, and you really don't know why they were fighting, then it's a bad superhero movie. Now, if you want to make this a coming of age movie, great. We could make it a coming of age movie. Jean Grey learning to deal with her new powers or her true powers, because that's really what this was. She didn't get additional powers from this. They made it sound like this just opened up the powers that Xavier had blocked. Well, if that's the case, then this should be a coming of age movie, and we don't need these massive fights with alien races that are shapeshifters. I mean, I will say, if we want to take one part of this movie that I actually thought was really good, it was the part with Michael Fassbender. It was when Jean Grey went to Genosha to look for Magneto and say, I need help controlling this. And the military shows up, and this is the one time, Magneto, the evil mutant Magneto, is trying to keep the peace, and Jean Grey snaps and basically wipes out the military, and Magneto has to protect the military that dislikes him so much. Like, I thought that scene right there was actually really good. It was just all the other parts. But you could see, like, that right there was a coming of age. That was Jean Grey looking for help, looking for what's going on, help me with this. And, like, that, they could have built upon that. Instead, they introduced these shape-shifting aliens that are trying to take the power from her.
Yeah, and that whole scene there, that whole series, to me works on a lot of levels because of one reason, and that is the way Michael Fassbender plays Magneto. He thinks he's the hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she comes running to the perceived bad guy, also thinking he's the hero. So you have two people totally believing opposite of what the viewing audience is believing. I thought that worked pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. And realistically, if they went straight from that point into building up this internal conflict within Jean Grey, that you have this force that is making her want to do this, and this rage that's coming out, and you add in, then you go with Magneto being a mediator between Xavier and what he did and Jean Grey. You could have worked it between those three. You could have thrown in some battles between the three of them type thing if you wanted to show off abilities. But that they could have taken that part of the movie and kept going in that path, and I think this movie would have ended up better. Not great, but better. I really think they missed the boat with trying to add in fight scenes. And and this is coming from the guy who loves action movies and watches more like I watch action movies just for the action and just to see the battles. I mean, who doesn't want to see, who doesn't want to see a bunch of people with mutant powers fighting? I would love to see that, but let's tell us a story that actually gets us to that point instead of just throwing it in there for no reason.
Nobody's paying attention to me. I'll go see Magneto. He'll help me.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And I'll fuck up a helicopter while I'm there.
which was pretty cool. Yeah. Uh, yeah, not a huge fan if you haven't figured that out.
I was starting to sense it.
So, um, you know, I don't know. I hope Kinberg gets another chance. I hope Simon Kinberg gets another chance. I hope he learns from this. If you're going to adapt a story and tell it your own way, which I'm perfectly okay with. I don't think they had to take this story directly out of the comic books. But if you're going to adapt a story and tell it your own way, you better make sure that you're telling a story and a coherent story.
Well, it suffered from the same thing the DC movies suffer from, in my opinion. They throw too many bad guys at you.
Yeah. And they forget to give you they forget to give the hero a motivation.
Yeah.
And just like we'd said in this one, I don't know, I can't tell if Jean Grey was supposed to be the hero or the villain.
And I think that's on purpose, but the way they played it, they didn't even give you enough for you to make up your own mind.
Yeah. Well, because she didn't do anything. Like
she pouted a lot. She pitched a fit.
She threw a lot of fits at people that were yelling at her, I guess. I'm not really sure. It never slowed down enough to tell you. And, I think you're absolutely right. The DC movies fail in this same aspect. And, that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But, it just, the point that I wanted to make for this movie was the Dark Phoenix Saga comic book series. That arc that Chris Claremont wrote was a story from beginning to end. It was a story, and it had holes in it. It had suspension of disbelief. It had all the things in there that people could nitpick and whatever, but it was a story that was told from beginning to end. This movie didn't it didn't have that story. It was missing the story to be told. It was
just a bunch of scenes filmed and put together.
Yeah. And I really hope that Simon Kinberg is not the next Michael Bay, because this is probably, you make that comment that this was just a bunch of scenes put together. This felt like a Michael Bay movie. This felt like they were just putting action scenes in there to have action scenes. They were just putting characters in there just so they could fight. And boom, here you go. You got a movie. It's a blockbuster, AAA title, tentpole movie. Whatever other cliche you want to throw at it. And it failed.
Yeah, it was bad. I walked out of there going... Well, I walked in expecting Sophie Turner to be horrible, and she wasn't. So I walked out of there kind of happy for her that she wasn't as stiff as she is in Game of Thrones. But I also walked out of there confused, like you said. I was not quite sure if I was supposed to be rooting for or against her.
Yeah.
And I still wasn't sure if we won or lost when the movie ended.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. And it's just sad. It's sad, and I think I take this a little harder than I should, because the X-Men are the they're my thing. They're the thing they're the comic book series that I love the most. It is the characters that I love the most. These are the ones that I grew up with. This was influential in my time. Like this, and I mean, and I'm not just saying the Chris Claremont run, even though that was the one that really kind of got me going, because I like the stuff that's come out since Chris Claremont. So the X-Men characters in general I'm big fans of, and I really hope that the acquisition of Disney and the bringing these back under the Marvel banner, the true Marvel banner, the Kevin Feige direction, will help, because I feel like these have, like you said, the X-Men First Class I thought was really good. I liked X-Men First Class. Honestly, I liked the very first X-Men movie that had Patrick Stewart and those guys. That X1, and I even liked X2 when they introduced um, Nightcrawler and the effects of him bouncing through the White House, teleporting in to try to assassinate the president, I thought was really good. Um, but the the other movies that have come out have felt like they're trying to take a comic book movie, a big influential comic book arc, and we're going to put it into the movies, but they forget the important parts of the comic book arc, and that's telling a story. The writing in a comic book is just as important as the art. Just like in a movie, the writing is just as important as all the visual effects. No matter how good the visual effects are, if the writing's not there, the movie's going to tank. And
Yeah.
hey, X-Men creators, hey, X-Men movie writers, hey, X-Men producers, learn something from the comic books and actually write a story. Then put your visual effects to it, and in the right places, and you'll get it back on track.
I hope so. Now, if we could just get him to fix Fantastic Four, we'd have it made.
Yeah, that one I think is going to be a lot. That one I think is going to be a lot tougher, but I think that's the Fantastic Four. That's a whole nother thing to talk about. But I think the dynamic of the Fantastic Four just doesn't exist anymore. What the Fantastic Four represented, this family ideal, doesn't exist anymore in this day and age, and I don't know that. I think they're going to have to change. There's going to have to be a recreation of the Fantastic Four, similar to maybe like what the last movie was, where maybe they all weren't related. But in that case, in that case, the Fantastic Four stops being the Fantastic Four and becomes the Avengers Light, and that's a lot harder to pull off.
Yeah. The last one, though, half the movie was really good.
Yeah.
Until the villain got created, then the movie went to hell.
Yeah.
They needed to do a better job with that part. Other than that, the setup, getting to know the characters, all that worked perfectly. And then they created Doctor Doom and did it poorly and screwed the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah. They got, and again, they have to go back to the writing for it and look at the motivation of the characters and why are they fighting the villain?
Because he's there.
Yeah. Why is Spider-Man fighting Mysterio? You know, why were the Avengers fighting Thanos? Like, it was either the Avengers had to win or Thanos was going to win. They both couldn't win. And at the end of
Right.
the Dark Phoenix, we're looking at it going, well, who won? They're all like, me. Jean Grey's fine now? She, like,
Is she?
like she does, just because she fought against these Dabari, now she's all better? Oh, Superman and Batman are fighting against each other, and then they realize that their moms have the same name, and we should be friends then and fight against this other guy over here that has not been a part of the movie ever at any point. But now he's here, so let's go. Both of our moms' names are Martha. We should go fight to save the planet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's
come on,
have
guys.
a villain, and let's call him Lex Luthor. And then we'll have Lex Luthor turn our two heroes against each other. And then when the two heroes finally figure out they're on the same side, let's not have them fight Lex Luthor. Let's introduce a completely different villain that has no motivation for being there other than it was created, and have them fight that.
Yep. And you know why he was created? He was put there so that they could show off the superpowers, because Lex Luthor was just a guy, and you put Batman and Superman against him, it's not a fight. Guess what? You made your bed, you have to sleep in it. If you're going to set that stuff up, same thing in this movie. Your movie was set up as Jean Grey battling Xavier. That was the way the movie was set up. That was your whole premise, up to the point that you brought in this other group to fight against so that you could show off the X-Men's mutant powers. You made the bed. You said it's Xavier's fault for Jean Grey being this way. Then let those two go at it. Let the battle between those be there. Let Jean Grey defect from the X-Men and become a bad guy and go against the X-Men. Make the X-Men the bad guy. Make Xavier be the bad guy. Make it to where Jean Grey, the X-Men side with Jean Grey, and now Xavier's been kicked out. And they go off and leave the mansion and convince all the kids to go with them, and they start a new school and call it the Jean Grey School for the Gifted. I mean, which actually was done in a comic book at some point, just not the Dark Phoenix. But so on that same note, in the comic books, in the Dark Phoenix saga, in the comic books, Jean Grey actually joins the Hellfire Club and becomes the queen of the Hellfire Club, which is the secret organization of mutants that basically are trying to take over the world. She becomes the head of that as the Dark Phoenix. She's manipulated to become the head of that. So she becomes the bad guy.
That a lot more than what happened.
Right? I mean, hey, just read the story. Find a story and tell that story. Oh.
No, we're going to tell a story until we're tired of that story. And then we're going to tell you a completely different one with no context.
Yeah. All in the same movie. And we're going to say it's one movie. Come on. All right. We've probably beaten this to death, haven't we?
Yeah, but it was fun.
So if there's any writers, directors, anybody out there, just do me one favor. Tell a story and make sure that your characters are motivated to do what it is that they need to do to continue the story. Don't throw somebody else in there that really has no point being there at all. No motivation to be there. Tell a good story. Tell a good story. All right, everybody. We've been going on long enough. That's it. Don't go watch Dark Phoenix. Don't go watch X-Men's : The Dark Phoenix, because that's where it belongs. Is in the X-Men's : Probably
We
the
should
worst.
never watch X-Men's colon.
Yeah, this one is probably the worst of the bunch. Go watch one of the other ones. Go watch First Class. I actually enjoyed First Class.
Go watch the animated version from the 90s.
Yes, go watch that because that's really good. That is really good. I actually, you know what? I wonder if that's streaming anywhere. I wonder if that'll be streaming on Disney Plus when it comes out.
Hopefully.
Ooh, that would be awesome. I would love to be able to sit down and watch that with my kids. That would be so much fun. All right. That's got me going. Rabbit hole. I'm going to go find out. I'll let you guys know when I find out. All right, guys. So, I don't know. Any last words from you, Kip? I feel like I've rambled enough.
No, I'm done. I got heartburn. I need a glass of water.
There you go. All right, everybody. The Dark Phoenix is giving Kip heartburn, so you know what you can do. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. Twitter, we're on Twitter. I'm at Geekvice. That man over there is at Kip Killigan. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that from our Facebook page, or you can go search for Kip Morph on YouTube. You can also reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about the Dark Phoenix. Was I all wrong? Did I really just not pick up on the things that I was supposed to pick up on in the movie? Let me know. Send me an email. Maybe I was all right. Tell me that too. I like hearing I'm right. I don't hear it enough. Thanks everyone.
He's married, so he never hears it.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.